What is up, y'all? Kevin Kuhn here from Athlete Factors. This is the Athlete Factors podcast. My guest today is Andrew Mcvittie. He's a physiotherapist and coach. How you doing today?
I'm all right, thank you. Yeah, good so far.
Awesome. Well, you're coming from a long ways away for this conversation, all the way across the pond.
Yeah.
So thanks for making the time to do this.
No, it's good. It's good we've been able to find a time when we're both up and
Yeah.
awake at the same time. I was a bit worried.
What is it, 5 or 6 hours difference? So that can make things.
Yeah. So not too bad, that is it.
Yeah. But it can make things a little tricky. So, so if you will, for everybody watching and listening, please give us a little bit of your background, your like academic background, athletic background, and professionally what you do now.
Okay, so I suppose athletically is the most important. I'm a lifelong really climber. I've been climbing now for 26 years, although I'm 45, so yeah, not all of my life. I've been coaching for 14 of those years. As the sport has grown, it used to be quite a bit of a backwater alternative kind of a sport. That people maybe didn't fit into team sports. They sort of fell into this, and it was a little bit of an alternative scene. Now it's mainstream Olympic sport this year. Gyms everywhere, both all through Europe and America. It's grown hugely, and with that has come the need for coaching. As the sport has become more and more popular, you get more people participating, taking part for longer, more frequently, getting injured, and then my other hat comes into play as a physiotherapist, and that that area has grown hugely as the sport has grown. I've been fortunate enough to witness that all the way through, from it being a quiet little alternative sport to now being a mainstream sport, and everything's just exploding at the moment in the world of climbing.
Yeah, I imagine because it's because of the demands of the sport are so different than any other sport. The type of injuries you see and the type of issues you see are probably very unique, that it helps to be so involved in the sport and as a physiotherapist to be able to make those connections. You wouldn't want to just go to some generalist, let's say, for something that's a very unique thing within the sport of climbing.
Yeah, there's certainly finger, hand related issues that definitely come into that aren't so common in other sports, really. But I think if you apply the principles, those strong principles of rehab can be applied to most things. But yeah, definitely where I find it really comes in, you can rehab most people in most sports or most walks of life. I feel getting somebody fully returned back to their sport at the level that they want to be at, especially if they're operating at a higher level, that's where the real unique knowledge comes in, I feel.
Yeah, that's where that nuance. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Knowing your, a lot of climbers also, they just like outdoor activities. So they will be runners, they will be cyclists, they will be climbers, they'll be hiking, they'll be doing canoeing, a bit of everything. So I've been the same. I've done off-road ultra marathons. I've done long cycle rides, 100 and odd miles, and and that type of thing. And so you have that. You start to know that cyclists, they really know how to train. Yeah, runners will run through an injury. They will ignore it. They will just keep going and keep trying, and so you have to work These are all stereotypes, but psychologically you have to, see where that person's coming from and what their sport's general approach is, and they're tough sports, things like cycling and what have you, and it is train through it. That's their mantra almost, and you have to be careful.
Yeah. That's so true.
Your triathlete background, I think you were saying, maybe. So yeah.
Yeah, my runners and triathletes, they'll show up and they'll be like, all right, my leg's killing me. I got 3 weeks till I race. What are we going to do? And, they probably just came from their ortho who said, hey, I'm going to put you in a boot for 6 weeks. And I'm like, let's figure this out.
They just left it in the car. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I'm not going to use it. I'm not going to not race. Like, we put all our eggs in one basket. It's not like other like team sports where like the entirety of the season determines how you do. It's like, nah, this is it. So
your one big race of the year. Yeah.
Exactly. So let's talk a little bit of how we got connected. So I get a message on Instagram from my friend Mandy, who's been a guest on this podcast, I think twice. And she says, hey, I've got this guy who's got some questions about collagen and about like mountain climbing or rock climbing and all this stuff, and maybe you can help him out, so expect a message from him. And so that's kind of how I got introduced to you. So tell us a little bit about how y'all got connected, and we'll go from there.
I guess as we were touching on before, climbing has grown hugely, and with that comes everything that surrounds a growing sport. Money is now involved. We have climbers who are sponsored by, very, internationally famous companies and that kind of thing, drinks companies and and that type of thing. Supplementation is coming in, and so collagen popped up as a few times, both in my kind of social media or on climbing websites and this type of thing. And one person started producing a particular collagen supplement, and I just looked at that. I was getting more and more interested in nutrition, both for myself and my performance and my recovery, but also from with a professional head on, thinking towards patients and their recovery. And this seemed, it basically says the science proves that this, will reduce injury and speed up recovery. And I was like, whoa, this sounds amazing. But being 45, I'm a little long in the tooth. I don't believe all these things. So I started to dive into the science. Nutrition is not my thing. I'm a physiotherapist, but I can read a paper, I can critique a paper, I can see if this is this what the author's actually saying, and not quite was as a result of that. That's not quite what the author was saying, but there's so many ways to contact people now, and it was literally through Instagram, and I'd come across Mandy, and it was there is somebody who knows her stuff about sports nutrition. And actually through Instagram, I spoke to a manufacturer of a supplement, collagen supplement. I spoke to somebody who was involved in designing them. I've spoken to nutritionists like yourself and Mandy. And it's been brilliant just to reach out and have open conversations with people, to discuss the science. Which she was able to do obviously as well, and put me in touch with yourself. So it's just been a bit of a journey I've gone on, really.
Yeah. So I was actually the vice president of R&D for a supplement company a couple years back.
Yeah.
And collagen was not something that I ever wanted to include in our line, but
okay.
But
it's there.
But it's there. It's everywhere, and it's becoming more and more popular in general with just muscle development and obviously the aesthetic side. It's everywhere. Do you want to improve the strength of your hair? Do you want stronger nails? Do you want better skin? Do you want, so there's that side. There's the side that is trying to address things like joint pain, osteoarthritis, things like that. And then there's also the sport performance side, the rehab side, the injury prevention side. So as a supplement ingredient, it actually spans a very wide spectrum of potential benefits, let's say.
It's almost too good to be true, isn't it?
When it comes to supplements, if you just read the marketing claims, then every product is too good to be true.
Yeah, of course.
Unfortunately, but there there's caveats. Let's say there's like if we step back and look at it from the perspective of not does it work or doesn't it work, because like the using that as a measure of does a supplement do the job or does it not do the job, it depends. It depends on the timing, it depends on the dosage, it depends on the specific type of collagen, let's say. It depends on what your measurement of does it work is like. So it's complex, but if like you who took the time to weed through this, if you're willing to do that, then you can get to some answers that will allow you to be able to practically help yourself, help your athletes. And so hopefully we'll be able to dig through the mud a little bit more today to
it'd be good.
Provide some more answers.
It'd be good. Yeah, for sure.
So what are some of the things kind of through this journey that you've taken? What are some of the main points that you've found? What are some of the, I guess, the big takeaways for you?
The big takeaway to do with collagen. I mean, when I went through university and went through my training, you could become aware of how important collagen is to the body. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we are just full of the stuff, aren't we? In its different types, but predominantly types 1, 2, and 3. And so then it makes sense. You see that if I take this, if I am lacking in this, if I need some of this, then I take I supplement. I take protein powder. Mm-hmm. Because it's convenient, and I'm not against supplementation, but I think if there's a better way to spend your money and time, then perhaps we should look there instead. Or if there's a better way of gaining the collagen that you need, or the amino acids that are actually needed. And this is where it kept going by my journey. My overall takeaway, I suppose, is the question that you asked, is I now know an awful lot more, but I now know about how much I don't know.
Yes.
My goal when I started looking into nutrition for myself and then for patients and clients was I wanted to be able to give them some guidance. I can talk to people about macros, what we should be looking at before training, after, to generalized nutritional information, and I feel happy to give that. But we go collagen, right? What's collagen made out of? And then well, what happens to that when it goes into the body, or how does it, what pathway is it using to get from your small intestine to be, how does that end up in your knee as a new piece of type 2 cartilage? And so every level you opens up another level, and obviously you guys, yourself and Mandy, are at that next level and beyond, and I'm at the basic understanding level, but you then realize why there is a need for specialists, like yourself, because we all can't know everything about everything, because it is just the information just grows outwards, doesn't it? And
I'm no expert.
Right. Okay.
There's people who know a ton more about this, right? So that's what's crazy, is you can always dig deeper. There's always so much more context that once you learn more, it's like you said, that opens up a ton of more questions and more lanes where you're like, okay, well, in this specific instance, how does this work? So like the idea of I'll let you finish, and then I'll pose a question to you.
I think that was about it, really. Is just that, yes, it's collagen or its constituent parts, its building blocks, are important, and we need as part of a balanced diet that's going to fuel what we're doing. That needs to be taken into consideration. That's kind of as far as I've got because I've got the understanding. I've done, looked at the papers. It's then when you look at what those papers are building on and where they come from, it all gets a bit too much.
It's a lot, and it's a lot to. This is a good segue. It's a lot to digest, and so
I like it.
Yes.
Good.
So here's one of the big questions that I had when I started to look through this is, okay, so fundamentally, what's the difference between collagen protein and something like whey? Because at the end of the day, protein is just amino acids. So, what's the difference? So I've got a chart here. Let me open it up. So it's just somebody took a look at the difference between 11 grams of bovine collagen peptides and 11 grams of whey protein concentrate. So not even the highest, what I would consider the highest quality type of whey, but a solid type of collagen peptides, which are different than other types of collagen.
And this is when these things are stuck on the side of a bottle in the shop or on the website, and this kind of like hydrolyzed collagen, and it's like, well, yeah, you make that sound like it's some kind of super sciencey, exciting thing that makes this a better collagen than any other. It's powdered collagen. It's just a nice way of saying powdered collagen, isn't it?
But there are some differences between the way that you digest and utilize collagen from, like, say, a chicken drumstick versus bone broth versus hydrolyzed collagen.
Ooh,
and hydrolyzed collagen or collagen peptides can actually they're not broken down to the same extent, so that it looks a lot more like tendon or ligament by the time that it gets to the knee, let's say.
Right.
So there's less that has to kind of be put back together. So that's one of the differences. But that doesn't always mean it's better. So
okay. but then that context has a context. Yeah.
Exactly. So, but like when we look at the differences between just like generic collagen and generic protein, like whey protein, let's say, like the amino acid content in collagen is not impressive at all. Like from my perspective, the quote unquote sport performance perspective or the strength and conditioning perspective, I'm looking at what can deliver the highest level of leucine, because that is probably the most, that's the most important limiting factor when it comes to the quality of a protein. So like in 11 grams of bovine collagen peptides, there's like 300 milligrams of leucine. When I look at 11 grams of whey protein concentrate, there's like 1,100 grams of leucine. So like almost 4 times as much leucine. So like if your entire goal is to stimulate the synthesis of new muscle protein, why would you bother with collagen? It's not going to be helpful. It's relatively cheap, but like so is whey. So, and there's a bunch of other ways. So if for people who are looking at the marketing and who have assumed, oh, well, it contains all the essential amino acids and that's what I need to stimulate, muscle growth and development and muscle repair and promote an adaptation, I'll just go with collagen. Like, not a good idea. You should probably go with something else. But so that's the first but, or the first caveat. Like if you're looking at other soft tissues like tendons, like ligaments, like joint health, like these other things, well, then supplementing with collagen is maybe a little bit more important. So so from there, where do we go next?
Well, interesting what you were saying about the hydrolyzed and the what's the word? I have bioavailability. Is that the right? Yeah,
Yes.
the right term. And I've looked at, so like leucine, you would, as a broad brush figure, you're after kind of 2 grams of that to trigger the protein synthesis and such that. And point completely taken about collagen as opposed to whey. But I think Keith Barr, isn't it, who seems to be the main researcher in this area? I think he did it was almost like a narrative paper, I think, really. And he said whey, good quality whey with a high leucine, is probably just, just as good in his opinion. Where it is finding a level of interest, I think, and going back to what you touched on before about the production of it and the manufacture, actually being made in the first place and sold. The manufacturer that I spoke to, kind of off the record, I won't say who they were, said that they started producing it because their athletes were demanding it. They were asking for it, and it's just hugely out there. In climbing, we all tend to get, if we're going to get an injury, the most common is the fingers, and it's the tendons. So golfers and elbow, golfers and tennis elbow. So the actual tendons, or ligaments in the fingers that hold the tendons in place when we're holding onto small bits of rock, and they come under huge loads, multiple times body weight type thing, just in a finger or two. And so the idea that you can take something which will find its way to these tissues that are being stressed and, help them adapt to these loads is really tempting, isn't it? That's really very... I have started eating... I've been vegetarian for the last few years, so eat dairy, but not actual meat. And I've recently started eating locally sourced organic chicken because I do think I need some collagen. I was also getting quite sick of pea protein. It's got I'm afraid. Doesn't matter what you do to it, it just tastes of dried peas. And yeah, and it just goes back to if I can get what I want, I do eat a portion of chicken, gristly bits and everything a day now. I can't sit here and say, oh yeah, my knee feels way better now, or my finger, as you say, it's just not that black and white, is it? It's not that cut and dried with these things. But I probably wasn't getting that at all before.
I can't remember exactly which study it was, but I remember seeing one, and I think it was either looking at joint pain or osteoarthritis. And the subjects in the study who ate less meat after the introduction of, I believe it was hydrolyzed collagen, they had the most improvement, which I thought was really interesting because I guess they needed it the most, and so they noticed the most change. But coming back to the introduction of the chicken, I'm not entirely sure, but I'm pretty sure that even though you're consuming collagen in that form, it's all just getting broken down into individual amino acids in the digestive system.
Yeah. Once it's been through a hydrochloric acid bath and then through the churning of your large and small intestine and all the enzymes and everything. Or otherwise, if we needed strong bones, we'd just eat bones.
Exactly. So that's what's so interesting is my perspective is, okay, if I want to increase muscle mass, the easiest way to do that is to eat animal source muscle mass, right? Like that just It's one of the funniest things. It makes sense, right? So, but when it comes to if I want to improve tendon, ligament strength, joint, health and function, do I just eat those things? Well, not exactly, because it's all broken down into those amino acids. The benefit, though, is now you have those amino acids and your body can, in general, can do what it needs to do to replace and repair and protect and do all the things, because now it has the substrate to make those things.
Yeah.
The issue here, and the difference between tendons and ligaments and joint surfaces or joint structures, is muscles have a very, very well-developed, efficient supply of blood, which delivers fluid, it delivers nutrients, it shuttles away garbage, and it's not exactly the same specifically when it comes to ligaments and when it comes to joints, right? So even if you have all the substrate, there's no guarantee that it can get delivered. So let's talk a little bit about the protocol that you came across, and we'll talk a little bit about that, and then I think I'll be able to provide a little bit more insight into bulk fluid flow, which is if you're going to try to get some benefit from collagen, like here's why the timing of these specific nutrients matter.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And for me, the big takeaway from Barr's work isn't so much, he showed that if you ingest gelatin, you will have more gelatin, and the amino acids within your system. He then showed that if you exercise, then the synthesis, or they've certainly found markers that are related to increased collagen synthesis within the blood. And then if you apply the serum from that blood to a engineered ligament, I mean, this is where it's not quite so great. But you read it and you think, this all makes sense. That ligament became functionally stronger, and such like, and took up the collagen. What came out of that for me is the intermittent exercise of 10 minutes or less duration. Load isn't particularly important, so even if you have an injury, you can just go very light, or even exercise other body parts. You get your
just to get it flowing.
To get everything going for 10 minutes, 3 times
this
in a day.
The jump
separated
rope?
by about 6. You just had to skip him. And so if you have someone who has an injured finger, that takes out a lot of what we would do to train in climbing. Obviously, this is the connection to everything that we do. But if I can even get them jumping rope for 10 minutes 3 times a day, and take this supplement and say, don't worry, this will be stimulated, we're doing something.
Yes.
There's other things I would be doing as well, but that for me was the takeaway, that we have a proven protocol that allows our body to uptake collagen if it's there.
Yeah.
Or, as you said, the substrate, the building blocks, if they're there, it'll go for it.
For sure. No, I think so this was they did 2 different amounts of gelatin, right? Was it like 5 and 15?
And there was a definite correlation between 15 having a higher uptake and a higher amount within your blood.
Yeah. And so this was vitamin C enriched. So I have no idea the specific product that they use, but I'm sure it wasn't Jell-O, right? So before people jump onto eating a Jell-O cup every day, probably not going to do it.
Ahead. Yeah.
Even though gelatin is basically just cooked down collagen. That's essentially what it is.
I went to the supermarket when I first started looking into it, down the home baking aisle, and there it is, sheets of gelatin, and I was like, oh, is it that simple? Because I know this marketed collagen supplement I was talking about, the dosage that they recommend and that type of thing, you're looking at $80 to $100 a month, because
Wow.
it's had extra leucine added to it for the synthesis. It comes with vitamin C, so all you need to do is just take that. Whereas then you look back at Barr's research, and he was gelatin of whatever form it was, and some Ribena.
Yeah. Doesn't have to be fancy.
No. And that was what got me thinking, hang on, this doesn't have to be, I'm not against supplementation, but $80 to $100 a month on something we're not even certain what the dosages are and that type of thing. But we do know, going back to where we do know the protocol.
Yes.
We know that works. That's powerful.
So when it comes to the protocol, let me just pull up my notes here. So bulk fluid flow. So in the same way that like weather patterns change because weather likes to shift from like areas of high pressure want to move towards areas of low pressure, right? So when it comes to like the lymphatic system within the body, like that's basically a passive system. You can work through that by muscle contraction, right? So that helps kind of move things along. Bulk fluid flow is essentially the same. So when you're moving, the pressure around joints, the pressure within joints, the pressure, extracellular pressure, intracellular pressure, all these things are shifting, and that change in pressure allows certain nutrients and certain amounts of fluid to cross specific barriers. So in looking at the way tendon injuries happen, and the way that scientists have been able to figure out how to speed up these types of injuries, repairing these injuries, and proposing new ways to look at how to fix these things. They've looked at bulk fluid flow, and if you deliver nutrients into the bloodstream at specific times so that they're peaking at the same time you're exercising or moving and causing, like if the nutrients are there, that doesn't necessarily mean that they'll all get to where they need to be, but you can increase the amount that will be delivered into a joint, let's say, if it's there during these times of bulk fluid flow, when these nutrients have the potential to shift from extracellular to intracellular, from outside the joint to inside the joint, from things like that. So I think that's really the secret to the protocol is, maybe there's a couple secrets. So the combination of vitamin C with the collagen or with the gelatin made it so that it's much easier to attach collagen fiber to collagen fiber when it's either lysine or proline. The specific amino acids are already in their oxidized form. So hydroxylysine, hydroxyproline. That's what vitamin C does. It allows those specific amino acids to be oxidized so that these collagen fibers can like stick to other collagen fibers. Yeah. Right. Okay. So they already have that part. So when I believe that when you're ingesting hydrolyzed collagen, it's essentially delivering it to the body sort of in that form where it's
ready to go.
It's much easier to just lay down these fibers. Okay. So that's one benefit. The other benefit is, as I mentioned earlier, when it comes to digestion, they found that collagen peptides or hydrolyzed collagen, you can find it in the bloodstream faster versus just collagen by itself. Okay. So you're speeding up that amount of time so that most of these nutrients aren't reaching peak levels in the bloodstream until like half an hour or an hour later, right? So if you can speed up that process, then you don't have to be consuming this, an hour before your workout. Now you can consume it 10, 15, 20 minutes before, and now you're going to get the same effect. So they've got that sort of situation going, where now you've got the collagen, you've got the vitamin C, so you've got it set up to where it can lay down a whole lot faster, and then the exercise, whether it was jumping rope or whatever activity that you're going to do, you're stimulating those specific structures, the tendons, the ligaments. They're doing some sort of work, even if it's not the target that you're looking for, right? So you're stimulating the synthesis of new collagen formation. You've got the structures, you're putting those together, and now by doing that exercise, you're also eliciting that bulk fluid flow. Okay. So I think it's really the combination of those things that allowed them to then pull that serum, throw it on the engineered ligament, and boom, they're seeing benefit. Is it the exact same outside the body as it is inside the body? We don't know, but no. You're definitely doing yourself a favor. In my opinion, I think it's a good idea to do.
But if your diet is, say you've got all the amino acids covered, you've got your, was it glycine, proline, hydroxyproline, is it, that make up collagen? So I'm eating my chicken every day now. I'm gnawing on the bone and getting all the gristly bits,
all that good stuff.
So that's, if my body requires that, it's already there. Is that, so would I still need to supplement? I would definitely encourage an athlete or whoever, not as a rehabilitation, but just in general, to have a connective tissue health session, to be giving these little interventions quite often. So if you feel somebody's got it covered, when would you bring a supplement in would be a much better question.
So that's a good question. In general, so when I mentioned kind of before we started this that I wrote a chapter in a friend's book kind of all about this stuff. So when I'm prioritizing things, this is the order that I do it in. First and foremost, collagen is not discussed. Even before that, we're talking protein in general. But in my opinion, the most important thing is you have to be able to cover the cost of training, of maintaining the tissue, and then the cost of repairing the tissue. So I don't care how much collagen you're supplementing. I don't care how much protein you're getting throughout the day. If you're in a calorie deficit, your body's not going to do that. Okay. It's just not going to do it. So from my perspective, it's what's your caloric need? So I'm going to sit down with the athlete and I'm going to say, okay, how much are you eating every day? This doesn't mean we have to be tracking every day. We don't have to track all the time, but I do think it's a good idea to every once in a while make sure that we're addressing things correctly. So if your basal metabolic rate is, 1,800 calories, and then your activity factor makes it so that you need to shoot for about 3,000 calories every day, then we're not going to discuss anything else until you're able to consistently hit that. Because if you're coming in at 2,200, then we can throw all the collagen down your throat that you can handle, but it's not going to help because you've got the substrate there, but you can't pay for it, right? Like, so that's like, I want to build a house and I dumped off all the construction equipment and I've got the construction workers there, but they're like, until I get a paycheck, I'm not doing anything. I'm just going to stand here. Right. So
I like that. That works.
You've got it all there.
Yeah.
But no work's going to get done
until anything with it.
You got to pay for it. So from my perspective, that's always the most important thing. You've got to cover the cost of training. Right. So like that requires currency, that requires calories. You got to cover the cost of just maintaining all your joints, your ligaments, your muscles, your bones, all of that. And then if you want to adapt, if you want to get stronger, if you want to get more proficient as a climber, then you probably don't want to even be at maintenance. You probably want to be in a slight surplus. So if you have no idea what that means and you're just like, oh, like I get stuck on this one fairly often because I know a lot of people are like, calorie counting, tracking, that's like just as bad as other types of disordered eating. And I'm like, yeah.
What is ordered eating is a question I'd like to I'd like to know.
It's tough.
Yeah.
And like within the endurance community, it's becoming more and more of a thing to be like, no, avoid the calorie trackers. You're not helping yourself out. But I'm like, okay, but then how do you know what's enough? Like, well, I felt full. Yeah, like, well, there's plenty of people who don't eat enough who feel full because your digestive system can adapt to what you give it so that you're not always feeling miserable because you're only giving your body a set amount of food. So yeah, starting with that, and then from there going into like general protein content. So I like my athletes, to shoot for about 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, or, about 2 grams per kilogram, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And that way you're giving your body all the amino acids that it needs. I recommend a variety of protein sources. I work with athletes who are vegan. I work with athletes who are vegetarian. I work with athletes who all they want to do is eat meat. And I'm a big barbecue fan here in Texas.
Years ago, I was, one of the fashionable diets, the keto, the Atkins, whatever, that had me written all over it. That was my dream diet. Yeah, if I can just eat meat and some leafy salad, I would be the happiest man in the world. So now fantastic. To have gone, all the way through to being vegetarian, and now I'm kind of falling off the wagon a bit. I mean, that was for, animal welfare reasons, really, which I feel are valid. Now I buy local, high quality, high welfare, and that to me is sitting. Yeah. Everybody always seems to be. It's got to be 100% of one thing or 100% of the other, and you can't be in between. And it's like I'm doing what I feel I'm able to do, and that I'm happy with, and that's me. And you're different, and the next person is different, and we shouldn't all be. You said you're a vegetarian, and now you're eating a McDonald's burger. Well, they may just have really fancied that day, and that's
how dare you. How dare you?
Yeah, that's fine, isn't it? But that really, interesting. And this is the process that I went through myself personally. I did calorie count. I can now in a day pretty much guesstimate how many calories I've had because I now know how much are in and what a portion looks like. And we habitually eat quite a lot of the same foods, don't we? I think. Yes. I make sure I get a good spread, but I know really. I feel, but originally I increased my calories by 100 calories a day for a week, see if anything would happen to my weight. Didn't. I had to do that 4 times, 400 calories a day before I actually thought, I think I may have put some weight on. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, and it was a very small amount of weight, and so that for me, I was like, okay, I need to be actually here. I've been down here. Did I feel better for it? Yes. And then my next was to sort out protein, and the way I did 1 meal a day. I just got my breakfast sorted. That was my focus to start with, and then once I felt I had breakfast, then I started looking at my lunchtime meal. And just piece by piece, isn't it? But
when you're systematic like that, it tends to be a whole lot easier. But a lot of people like they try to jump in and do everything. Like,
it took me until I was in my mid 40s, before I was like, okay, why don't I approach this instead of just going, I'm doing that diet, and as of midnight tonight, I'm going to wake up tomorrow and follow an entirely different diet. But I mean, I look at that now and I'm thinking, wow, because I live to eat, not eat to live. I love my food. And to change everything is, nigh on impossible, isn't it? Which I guess is why so many things fail, or so many people.
That's the truth. Like when you try to about face, like completely change something overnight. It's just it's behaviors take time
Mm.
to really
Yeah.
sink in. And so if you can chunk it and make like adding 100 calories a week for a couple weeks, that's beautiful. That's perfect. Like that's how I work my clients up to a
Yeah.
calorie goal. That's how we
Yeah.
work down to a calorie goal. Like if I've got a client who wants to lose weight and right now they're set at 2,500 calories, then next week, depending on what their basal metabolic rate is, because I often don't want to go down that low.
Mm.
Um, Depending on their activity, the number of calories they're burning, depending on a lot of different things. Like I'm dropping down 50 to 100 calories a week on their way down to a set point.
Okay.
I don't like that's one way I do it. I know tons of people have success in a bunch of other ways, but if I know your basal metabolic rate is 1800 and we're at 2500, I can get you to lose a lot of weight really quick if I take you right to your basal metabolic rate or below that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's probably not going to be helpful in the long term if
Mm.
we're still trying to make uh, athletic adaptations
Yeah.
or make you not hate yourself or
So yeah, yeah. Or enjoy
or
life.
hate me.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So a couple of times I've gone through the process of really upping my protein, dropping the calories back down to where I know, yeah, and it's been successful. I'll follow that for uh, sort of about 11 days, have a 3-day break, do it again for another 11 days, and then that. But yeah, but I have just gone from here back down to there. I've never thought to gradually step down.
Takes
That
a lot
makes a
longer.
lot more sense. Yeah, but I will have a plan in mind. It will be, say, for a climbing trip where I want to perform, or it will be for a particular season of the year. You know, we're coming into climbing season now here, and so I want to start performing after a winter of training. And so I haven't been calorie counting so much, and yeah, I need to lose a bit.
Yeah. So like the
Yeah.
way that I would set it up is to look at an 8 week time frame
Mm,
or a 12
okay.
week time frame and
Right.
say, okay, I'm at 2,800 calories and I'm going to work my way down to 2,000 calories. And that's going to be, 2 or 3 weeks maybe before a specific competition so that I have a buffer. I've got a window to make adjustments as I need to. And the goal isn't to get down to 2,000. Uh, Maybe the goal is to get down to the point where I'm consistently losing a set amount of weight
Okay.
per
That may
week. And
happen
then
before though. Yeah.
exactly. And so
Okay.
then
Yeah.
ride that wave. And
Right.
if that's 2,200 calories, then stay there as long as you can and make those changes. Because, like, for me, my goal is always training intensity and training volume. And the lower you go in calories, the less intense you can train and the less volume you can accumulate. So you wanna lose weight on as many calories as possible,
Yes.
not as few.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense.
So,
Yeah.
but so back to
Sorry. Yeah. We digressed.
no, that's good.
Interestingly, but yeah.
Yes. Um, so like eating collagen,
Mm.
supplementing with collagen, is that a good idea to do on top of your protein goal, or should that be part of your protein goal? At the end of the day, I think it's probably best to include it in, even though I would quote unquote consider it a lower quality protein.
Mm.
Leucine can't be the only measure of protein quality, in my opinion. Like it shouldn't be the only measure.
Mm.
Most of the time, I think it's the most important thing. But um, I like there is some research showing that, uh, which I guess is counter to what Barr said about just going with whey. It's probably when it comes to the amino acids, it's probably the same as going with collagen.
Mm.
There is research showing that you can use a leucine enriched essential amino acid can augment mixed protein synthesis, but not collagen protein synthesis. So there's still probably some benefit to ingesting some forms of collagen.
Right.
I do think it's good. But there's some other research showing that um, it depends on it depends on the type of collagen. So like bone broth isn't always a reliable source of collagen precursors when you're comparing it to like supplemental collagen.
Okay. So in my
So
freezer, every day when I eat my piece of chicken, which is normally a thigh or a drumstick, and yeah, in my freezer is now full of this bag full of bones that I was going to make some bone broth out of. Maybe I won't bother now then. Yeah.
but here's the thing. Maybe that is still going to be good for your skin and your hair and your nails. And it's like,
Okay. Yeah.
it's still good in general. You're not
It's
like
going to
you're
make a
not
nice stock for a chicken,
it's going to
veg
taste good.
soup. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's man, it's so easy to get trapped into these or like backed into a corner. Like, well, if it doesn't do this, then it's not good. Like, yeah, but it does all these other things too. So if it wasn't worthwhile, then you know, then our ancestors probably wouldn't have wasted the time eating it. And we've adapted because of the diets of ages and ages back. So our body will figure out some way to utilize it, I'm sure. That's kind of how I feel about it. So once I've addressed calories and then protein in general, and then hey, make sure you're getting some sort of plant source protein, and then that's probably a good idea to also work in some sort of collagen based protein. Then I make sure my athletes are getting enough vitamin C. Like
Right.
if you want collagen formation from those amino acids from regular protein, I say regular protein, like non-collagen protein.
Yeah.
Like you can't be vitamin C deficient. Like you're
Yeah.
gonna get scurvy and you're gonna have issues with
But
all your
yeah,
tendons and ligaments.
I guess because it's not really around so much now, hopefully, scurvy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was only through researching this that I learned basically it's a breakdown of the extracellular matrix, isn't it? And the collagen just and
Can't
so
hold
therefore
together.
organ failure and all that type of thing. Yeah, and I just thought it was something to do with sailors back in the olden days when they got bad teeth and and then they died or something. Yeah. But yeah, hugely important, and that clears up exactly where I was aware it helped the process. I didn't know, actually in what way. So that is interesting to know.
So yeah, it's that it's the presence of vitamin C that helps with that
Binding.
yes, the oxidizing those certain amino acids so that they can bind, so that they can stick together. So it's so unique, in my opinion, the differences between like muscle protein and the way that muscle fibers look. And we get the cross bridging, and we've got actin filaments and myosin filaments, and it looks so different compared to like a tendon or like a ligament where it's just collagen. It just looks like spaghetti. It just it's just thrown together. It's so interesting to me. But
I have often, this is particularly with tendons, and they need loading as part of the repairing process in order to align those fibers, isn't it? And to bring them from being this mess to being so that they can take the forces in the direction that they need. And and I've often thought that seems a bit haphazard. Why? Why is if the body can make all these other fantastic honeycomb structures in the bone, and if you see, I find things like a knee cartilage, for example, it's a beautiful thing when you actually see it for real. It's like, wow, it's amazing, the body made that. And but collagen,
just throw it in there.
Just throw it in there, it'll be fine. Not sure where. But
somebody got lazy.
It made me think. Actually, there is, and it may be along the lines of this hydrolyzed and this and the undenatured type 2 collagen. Now, I found a study that instantly got my alarm bells ringing, because it was sponsored, made by a manufacturer, which isn't always a bad thing because they did actually declare, we are openly declaring this, but it was an absolutely kind of gold standard, double-blinded, randomized control trial. I've made a note. It is Lugo et al. 2016. 191 participants, all diagnosed with knee osteoarthritis. Took 40 milligrams of undenatured collagen type 2 a day. There was a placebo group and also a group taking glucosamine sulfate. Fantastically run trial. Won't bore you with all the details. I've been through it about 3 times going, there'll be something in here. I'm going to find the thing that proves that this is all rubbish. No. Significant outcomes in a score called the WOMAC score, which is a well-recognized knee function and pain related. All of its subscales. It was just like, yes, this is statistically significant, and also some real world benefits recorded as well. And that got me thinking to the point where I've bought some, because that literally, it was £20, wow. $25 or whatever for a month's supply. And I self-diagnosed, but as a physiotherapist, I know I have OA, osteoarthritis in my left knee. I had a cruciate ligament reconstruction there, so 20 odd years ago. The knowledge wasn't quite the same as it is nowadays. It was don't do anything for 6 weeks and then throw your crutches away and get back to life.
Jump right back into it.
Yeah.
You're ready to go.
Yeah, no help, no physio, no nothing. But this seemed really quite powerful, and there's been a further meta-analysis done at a Mexican university that agrees with the fact it reduces the WOMAC score significantly, statistically.
Yeah. Was this like 3 months, 6 months? Was this a longer study?
It was 6 months, 180 days. Yeah. But they included treatment by time factors and this kind of thing, intention to treat. I was looking two-way ANOVAs, which is not my field. Statistics is not for me.
Stats,
but I was thinking, like, have they formed some bias here accidentally by that can even happen through treatment by time, which is actually meant to stop bias between groups, isn't it? But and I've not been able to pick a hole in any of it, and it kind of looks good, and it's at the kind of cost where I would feel happy to say to someone, give this a try. It's not going to break the bank. It's not $80 to $100 a month. It's £20. £20 actually was enough for myself and my partner.
Wow.
She's taking it as well.
That's awesome. What blows my mind about that is the difference in the type of collagen, and then the dosage. Like for these other types to be effective, you're looking at 10 grams, 15 grams. And now we're looking at milligrams.
40 milligrams.
What? It's amazing.
Yeah. And I can only figure, and it pinged back in my head when you were talking about hydrolyzed and how actually that can be an advantageous thing. It isn't just turning it to a powder. It is about how broken down it is. And so this undenatured, again, that opened up a whole book to me that I was like, I'm going to have to spend as long again just researching what that means. And so but I'm guessing it's kind of still in its natural building blocks and therefore a bit more readily available.
Yeah, and I think there's differences between how type 1 and type 2 and type 3 are broken down and utilized, within digestion. So that was all type 2 collagen, correct?
Yeah, and so they're looking, I'm guessing, particularly at knee cartilage, which is why they went for the knee osteoarthritis. But for something that's, we know it's very slow to heal. Cartilage can adapt. We used to think that it couldn't, but it definitely does, and it can repair and it can heal and that kind of thing. But it's very slow, and They did nothing else. These participants in the trial, there was no, because often it'll be like they did placebo with exercise or this with exercise. No other confounding factors. It was carry on as in your normal lives. Don't do anything different. But take this every day.
Wow. It's incredible.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's really interesting. So along those lines, something else to consider for knees specifically. I think the most research is kind of done in this area. Omega-3s.
Yeah.
So in addition to really just reducing chronic inflammation in general. So if you're going to go with like osteoarthritis is essentially an inflammatory response. So going with increasing your omega-3s has a lot of benefit. Like I know some people shoot for like 3 to 4 grams per day, and they have a ton of benefit from that. There's a ton of anecdotal evidence, but there's also some legit research into that area. So that's another thing that I recommend. In addition to, calories, like hit your calorie goal, hit your protein goal, get some collagen, make sure you're not deficient in vitamin C, make sure you're also supplementing, get your blood work done, see if you're deficient in zinc, see if you're deficient in manganese, because these are also going to play a big role in soft tissue function and production of collagen to repair those things. But then omega-3s, and make sure you're also including other things in your diet that will help reduce chronic inflammation, like green tea extract, curcumin, quercetin,
is that
things like
turmeric thing? Is that I mean, this is another one that's every health food store, every supermarket has a little section of vitamins and supplements and whatever. And so your fish oils are always there, cod liver oil and that type of thing. So omega-3 is fair enough. But now there's, turmeric's always there.
Curcumin is a very powerful anti-inflammatory.
Okay.
So a lot of things like zinc is it has a hard time getting into individual cells. Like there's different forms of zinc when you supplement, and some are more bioavailable than others, and you can basically increase the bioavailability of just about all of those types of zinc and other vitamins and minerals as well, but specifically zinc, if you combine it with an ionophore. And so curcumin serves as an ionophore. It'll actually help chaperone zinc into cells, which is right now, I'm not a health expert. I'm not an expert when it comes to COVID, but other people who are experts have said that combining zinc with some sort of ionophore helps pull it into the cells, and zinc is really powerful at fighting off viruses. So I'm not recommending anyone do this, but what I do every morning is I take my zinc and I take my curcumin pills.
Right.
So, and I take vitamin D, but that's different.
I'm on the vitamin D now as well, mainly because of where I live, which is northwest England.
Not a lot of sun up there.
Not a lot. No, it's cold. Definitely. And when I worked in the NHS as a physio, there's a definite increase. We are now seeing rickets and bone diseases and that type of thing in certain populations. And vitamin D.
Gotta have it.
Gotta have everything. It's so. But I very much like the approach. Really good takeaway today of calories, and I love the analogy of building the house, having everything there good to go, but if you're not paying your workers, they're not going to do it. It's not going to get built. And then the protein, then the collagen, then we look at the things like the omegas and so prioritize.
Yep. There's a hierarchy of benefit And I think when you're doing it that way, like most people don't need to be told, hey, you have to apply a training stimulus. Like they know how to do that. And if they're in therapy or rehab, then you as the physio is telling them what to do. So you're applying that training stress. But like the 500-mile up perspective where I can see everything is like you've got to apply that mechanical training stress, which is the stimulus to adapt, but it's all nutrient dependent. You have to pay for it. You've got to not only pay for it, you've got to provide the substrate. So in the same way that the calories pay for the workers, you also have to have those amino acids there, which like that's your lumber, that's your cement, that's the stuff to build all that. So you want them both there. And specifically when it comes to collagen and to this whole discussion that we're talking about, that bulk fluid flow, you want them overlapping so that everything's there at the same time, right? You don't want the workers there chilling for an hour waiting on the equipment to show up. Like you want it all there at the same time so you can get that full work day and get the most benefit out of that. So I think hopefully that's some help.
Yeah, no, definitely. Thank you. Cleared up, some terms for starters, and and what they mean. That definitely helps. But then, just as you said, the approach, having things there, and knowing why, it's always good, because now that we have the internet, we have Google. What I get asked, I've always been about educating patients. I've got to say, I feel like that's my one of the things I absolutely aim to do. If people want that. There are also some particularly certain athletes will just be like, just tell me what to do and I'll go and do it. I don't want to know the ins and outs. But you get asked so much more now. Why? Why this? Why that? And I think it's great. But at least I'll be able to really say why now. Yeah,
and that's one of those things. I get asked why all the time, and there's plenty of times where I've said, I don't know. Let me get back to you.
Yeah.
And
that's the best.
I think that builds trust. That builds confidence that what, this guy's not just going to make something up. So I think that's important. So
definitely.
Well, Andrew, I've really enjoyed talking with you today.
Brilliant. No, thank you.
I'm going to have you on again in the future to educate me on how you train climbers. Like I want to know.
It's an Olympic sport now. There will be numerous climbing gyms in Texas. I'm sure there are. So definitely. There's a nutritional background to it now. There is, the sports science behind climbing now is just going through the roof. So for sure, I can talk about that. Yeah.
Sweet. Well, let's make that happen in the future. Okay. And again, thank you so much. So how can people watching and listening, how can they follow you? How can they reach out to you if they have questions?
So Instagram is probably the best now. At Process Physiotherapy is my handle on there. But I don't output very much. I feel if I've got something to say, I'll say it. I don't think I've ever had a referral from somebody saying, oh, I saw you on Instagram. Could you treat me? And so I don't feel the need, to go on there constantly. I check it every day and that kind of thing. And I like having to say this whole collagen thing came through Instagram really, and reaching out and talking to people. And I find it brilliant for that. But there's not that many posts on there.
Awesome. Well, that's all right.
But hopefully what there is interesting.
Quality over quantity.
Yeah, that's what I'm aiming for. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, like I said, I've really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this, and we'll have you on again in the future. And everybody, go follow Andrew and reach out to him if you have any questions. And
for sure,
we'll go from there.
Always good. Thank you very much, Kevin.
My pleasure. It's been great. Alrighty, y'all. Thanks for watching and listening, and stay tuned for next week's episode. Adios.